A princess, a wrestler, a warrior. This ferocious lady captured the world's imagination as well as their hearts. Today we will discuss Khutulun, or Ay Yurok, which translates to moonlight. The year is 1260, a torturous time in the Mongolian Empire as a civil war raged on. Kublai Khan, the son of Tulu, the grandson of Genghis Khan, had started a war with his younger brother, Arik Bok, for the rule of the Mongol Empire after the death of his older brother, Monk. This civil war, according to most historians, marks the beginning of the end for the Mongol Empire. In another part of the Mongolian Empire, Kaidu, of House Ogedei, was welcoming a daughter into the world. After 14 boys, she was a sight for sore eyes. As he held her in his arms, Kaidu thought about the world she was coming into, and his mind raced. Khutulun shunned the trappings of a female's expected life from a young age. She had to hold her own against 14 boys after all. She grew up riding horses, becoming skilled at riding and shooting her bow while covering vast amounts of land at any one time. Khutulun was being molded into a warrior. Her skills were improving daily. She became the envy of her brothers as her father spent more and more time with her, seeking her advice and wishing her to be by his side. The Mongols of Kaidu's clan valued physical prowess above all else when it came to the worth of a person. They would bet on wrestling matches. The odder the matchup, the crazier the odds. The winners of these matchups were revered as being gifted from the gods themselves. Death was a mercy for some of these fighters, as these fights were brutal. There were no weight classes. Anyone could fight anyone. Nobody was forced to fight, yet you were expected to fight as a man. Khutulun was walking with her brothers through the local villages where one such fight was taking place. She was mesmerized by the sight that was taking place in front of her. Khutulun found the man in charge of the fighting and asked to fight. A look of apprehension swept across his face when he realized who she was. He reluctantly agreed. As Khutulun stood across from the heavy-set-looking man in front of her, she took a deep breath and realized she belonged. He was almost a foot taller than her, but that didn't make her hesitate. She ran forward screaming at the top of her lungs. This took the man by surprise. The grin on his face soon disappeared as he was laid flat on his back. He tried to get back up on his feet, but the tornado on top of him would not relent. Khutulun unleashed a flurry of punches and pain on her opponent that left the spectators stunned. As she was pried from his now unconscious body, she was lifted above the heads of the cheering men. She liked the feeling, and decided to chase it from here on in. She fought again the very next day, and won. Again. She repeated this process quite a few times, winning in spectacular fashion every time. We now fast forward 10 years, and Khutulun is 20 years old. She is now being pressured by her father to find a husband. Her father desperately pled with her to wed a man. Any man, of her choosing. This is not what Khutulun wanted, though. She found the idea of marriage and men in general to be a bore. She had seen firsthand how easy they were to defeat. She therefore struck up a deal with her father. She would marry the first man to defeat her in a wrestling match. Her father reluctantly agreed. To stop just anyone asking for her hand in marriage, they set up a standing offer. Defeat her, and she would marry you. Lose to her, however, and you have to give her 100 horses. Khutulun was happy with this compromise, and so was her father. He thought she would be defeated, and she would marry a strong enough man to defeat his daughter in battle. And therefore, she would marry a strong man. Men from around Central Asia showed up to fight the warrior princess. They laughed at first when they heard of the idea. But of course I will defeat her, they thought. She's just a girl, they thought. Oh, how wrong they were. Historians such as Marco Polo waxed lyrical about the vast amount of horses she accumulated from her prowess against suitors. It was said she had a collection of 10,000 horses, and at 1 horse is a win, she would have had to wrestle and win against at least 100 men. She was husbandless after 100 matches. News of Khutulun's wrestling abilities and wins had reached the Great Khan, who at the time decided to dignify her by awarding her with a girji, or a paisa, a silver medallion worn around the neck. Khutulun is the only woman to have ever received such an award, as they were only ever awarded to men. This medallion would signify her prowess and her power in wrestling. As she got older, Khutulun became more and more stubborn. She became adamant she did not want a husband, and her deal still stood. A man arrived to ask for her hand in marriage, as many had done before him. He stood before her parents and pled his case. Khutulun's parents were incredibly taken by him, as he was very confident, handsome, and strong. He too was taken with himself and his powers, as he bet Khutulun's parents 1,000 horses he would defeat her in combat. They warned him that she was undefeated, but this did not deter him. He truly believed he could beat her. This impressed Kaidu and his wife even more. That night they went into Khutulun's room and begged her to throw the match. They knew the suitor wouldn't win, but they liked him. They liked the cut of his jib, as it were. Khutulun refused, so they asked again. Kaidu was worried for her future. He had also heard the horrendous rumours regarding an incestuous relationship that was floating through the Mongolian Empire. Khutulun reluctantly agreed and said she would throw the match. The next day, however, Khutulun had to find a space for her new 1,000 horses. The man was defeated. Khutulun didn't like the effect her rebuke of marriage was having on her father. Although he obsessed about finding her a suitor, his concerns then became more to do with the effect on the family's reputations across the Mongolian Empire. The rumour mill was truly in full force. Khutulun therefore decided to get married. The man she married never beat her at wrestling. She still remained undefeated. The marriage, however, brought unfiltered joy to her father, who welcomed this man into the family with open arms. Khutulun's athletic triumphs made her an ideal companion by her father in battle. She would be mounted next to him on the battlefield as a strong figure during the 30-year war between her father and the Khan at the time. She was known to rush into the opposition at full gallop and pluck a fighter from their midst, and bring him back to her father, dropping him at his feet. Her father and her constantly defied the efforts of the Kublai Khan to rule over the tribes of the steppes of Western Mongolia and Kazakhstan. They resisted every single army sent to them, no matter the size of the army or how well trained they were. A lot of victories were attributed to the knowledge and cunning of Kaidu. He professed many times how he was aided by Khutulun. He relied on her more and more as he grew older. He favoured her above all his children. Before Kaidu's death in 1301, he attempted to name her the next Khan, something which did not go down well with the very conservative elders, as well as her brothers, who opposed the idea vehemently. Her brother was placed as Khan, as Khutulun had no aspiration for rule and simply desired to be the chief of the army. She therefore struck up a deal with her brother, where she would put all of her trust and her political power behind him if he named her chief officer of the army. He agreed, and for a few years Khutulun ran the army factions in a tight, ordered and extremely disciplined manner. She kept up the traditions of her father and grandfathers by focusing on wrestling and brute force above all. She was feared by most men. She was not adored, however. Her brothers still held a grudge. They wouldn't forget their father's love for his favourite child. It is believed that they all conspired to end Khutulun's life. She died in a mysterious manner in 1306, at the young age of 45. The cover-up of her death was, however, so well done that no theories were spread regarding her death, and it was simply explained away as a natural death. Khutulun's prowess in wrestling and athletic ability is revered by Mongolian wrestlers to this day. They honour her by wearing outfits with an open chest to show that the wrestler is not a woman. The winner of the match would also raise his hands and show his chest to the spectators, again to prove he is not a woman, and as a sign of reverence for Khutulun, the warrior princess. So that was the warrior princess, a true badass from history. I hope you enjoyed that. Please check out my Instagram at badassesfromhistory, and like, subscribe and review if you can, as I'd love to keep making these. I find them interesting, and I hope you do too. Till next time.